Coming up after the break, we are here at COTA, Circuit of the Americas for Monday Night Skippies. Join us in just a few moments' time. Welcome to Monday Night Skippies here on RaceSpotTV. As always, we are back live here on Monday night at 9 o'clock, and well, we're in Texas, where everything is a little bit bigger. Although, apart from the racetrack, because tonight we're at COTA West, and it's Rachel, of course, and as usual, or I should say, unlike usual, we brought in Jake Sperry.
Well, hello there, everyone. It's Connery Maddox. Fantastic to be here in the booth. Monday Night Skippies, always an institution, Rachel. And, well, wouldn't have it any other way. It's qualifying times. The final laps are coming in.
They certainly are. The checkered flag is out for qualifying, and it's looking like Mark Mercer's put it on the pole by about 2/100ths of a second, which is a narrow margin. But this track, see, we have COTA East, we have COTA West. Unfortunately, COTA West is basically the full track, just minus the bit where people make passes.
Yeah, sometimes that's the way it goes, but, you know, I still think there has been opportunity. I mean, the Skip Barber 2K World Cup presented by DES Simulation has definitely proved you can make overtakes here, just not the way that you normally expect to, Rachel.
Well, we'll find out in very short order just how that goes for tonight, but as always, we're looking forward to a fantastic one here. 41 drivers have signed up for tonight, and we have 39 qualifying times in the books as the final laps do come in for us. In fact, I think they're in, so we're going to go straight to the starting grid. On pole tonight, Mark Mercer, 1:43.624. Great time from him there. Fima tonight has just narrowly pipped out with a 43.647. Third place tonight, of course, Bill Fraser, last week's winner. Simon Edwards, Robert Plumley in 5th place. Anthony Catt, Clark Williams, Peter Cowan, Stuart Adcock, and Chris Malcolm. 11th place is Matthew Willett. Jonathan Sheen, Nicholas Vaughan Roberts, Nick Sigley, Adrian Bidewell in 15th. Ben Daniels, Mr. T, Paul Thurston back in 17th. James McRitchie, Jack Hobbs, James Child in 20th. Rest of those results up on your screen as, you know what, this is always weirded me out a little bit here, of course, Jake, because it turns out that our qualifying music is my intro music. So I get very confused when this phase happens every week.
Well, the question is, who stole what for the first? Well, who's going to claim what?
Technically me, but hey, either way, we'll move on. Hugo inspired me, let's just say, as this has become a bit of an institution in Monday Night Skippies, so we'll go to your grid now as all the numbers are up for us there. You've seen where people are starting for tonight, and it's going to be a very packed-out racetrack here at COTA. The cars all taken to their starting positions here on the front stretch, and unlike F1 cars, who have a lot of power behind them, of course, these Skippies have to haul their behinds up the starting hill into turn 1, and they'll probably maybe make about 60 miles an hour before they're at the top of this thing. We'll have to find out.
Oh, you bet we will, Rachel. And the fact that, you know, these vehicles are struggling on high power, it's going to be all about momentum, and it's going to be all about how you use that momentum at what is a very stop-and-start circuit.
It really is. We lose the flow of this whole first section with the racetrack turning off, of course, for the West layout, so kind of throws things for a loop. You don't have that flow all the way through that first S's sector, which It's sad, but we have got the change to the dynamic there as the engines will rev here on the racetrack, and green flag will wave. Mercer on the inside, of course, Antonides on the outside, that front row, as in will dive Edwards behind Bill Fraser. Fraser's been very aggressive recently, and I think we are down on Tom Ward. I think he might have given up, seeing as he knows he has no chance for the championship, as everyone in the top 10 gets cleanly through that first corner, flowing through that choke point almost of the first corner here. We were 4 or 5 wide there for a moment. Back in your pack. As we get things going, we're through the first tricky spot. Everything will be a little bit more spread out after this, Jake. It'll be a lot easier for these guys as we come up to the diversion. Yep, there's cones out in the road, there's roadworks on the normal layout, so diversion to the left, and we rejoin that big backstretch. One of the longest backstretches in Formula 1 circuits around the world. And we're kind of joining it at the end.
Yeah, you're going to join it again at the end, down to the inside, goes for Antonides. He throws the block pass in there as well, so that's going to allow Bill Fraser an opportunity to go to the outside of this long right-hander. If he can stick it here, Rachel, he has this great chance to throw it to the inside, and you see how Mercer was so desperate to stop the driver of Fraser going through. He pushed him all the way to the outside a bit more, and look at how it's just checking up. We've got 2 wide, almost 3 deep there.
Oh, big move there by Bill Fraser, but Mark Mercer held it on the outside very nicely and recovers second place there. Gets himself up ahead of the charging young Scotsman, our points leader, of course. Manages to hold on to second there. Top 5 kind of breaking away a little bit here. That's Fraser, Edwards, Plumley, of course, at the back of that group, and they're doing just enough to hold on. Actually, no, Cat got past Plumley, so the Cat got the cream in that case. As out front, it's Antonides will lead at the first lap out of the final corner. Come across the line in first place here to signal lap 1. Of course, it is 13 laps for tonight's race. 13 whole laps, so it is slightly truncated Circuit of the Americas course. Once again up the top of the hill on the front stretch here, but the whole field is a little bit more broken apart now, a little bit spread out, so this should never be quite as much of a choke point as it was. Although people still go for dives, as we saw, they're just back in your top 10. Just taking advantage of the big braking zone there.
That was Matthew Willett in the Positive Sim Racing machine trying to go down to the inside. Jonathan Sheen actually went around the outside to take that position, Rachel. Fantastic move from the number 10, making progress up through the field. That puts him +1 overall. But they head through this section, and there's just that little bit of a bobble in the middle of the track. That right-hander leads before the left. It reminds you, Rachel, of the bomb hole at Snetterton as a vehicle goes very slow with a slowdown penalty up towards the front of the field. Not quite sure who that was. That was Chris Malcolm, of all people, struggling. And here I thought that if it's a miniature bomb hole sort of corner, Chris, careful. That I thought everything was bigger in Texas, Rachel.
Well, yes, apart from this layout of the circuit, which is in fact smaller, as we mentioned. But that cut-through section, which basically is our west layout's only part it uses, that part is notorious for slowdown penalties. Those corners are so easy to straight line, so easy to cut just a little bit, and it can really hurt you there, as I think we saw a bit of a bump there back in the pack, but everyone carrying on, no problems. No, that cut-through section there is so easy to straight line and get yourself a slowdown penalty. Of course, if you have more than half your car off the inside of the corner, the automatic steward gives you a slowdown penalty. You have to give the time back you gained there, and you can gain quite a lot. So the steward's punishing people tonight as Bill Fraser makes a move on Mercer here, running up the front stretch. Does this little car have enough power to get up the inside? Going into the first corner, holds him wide. Can Mercer sweep around the outside and save the position? He does. Nicely done by Mark Mercer, around the outside in turn 1 for the defensive line. Holds the place yet again, and this is giving Antonides a bit of a runaway here. He's just got some room to disappear off into the sunset.
Does the little engine that couldn't quite there from Bill Fraser. He wants a little bit more to try and make that move, and behind that, Simon Edwards did very well on the defense against Anthony Catt, who has really come up in terms of his pace over the last 3-4 months or so. Slow down for Antonides at the front of the field. Disaster for the Dream as his Dream gets dashed as he drops back 6 positions almost already.
Oh my gosh, he did. Oh, and contact there with Peter Cowan. We'll have to replay that for you because that was Antonides trying to sneak through on the inside after his slowdown penalty. Tries to take the apex and just T-bones Peter Cowan, puts him up on 2 wheels. Round they both go. Big damage for both those cars. That was an awful little moment there. Not what we'd expect from Fahim.
Well, I think that you have to look at that one from Antonides. He was there on the inside. I think Cowan should have realised that the driver of Antonides was going to be on that inside. There's nowhere to go at that section of track as well. Should have really extended out a little bit. It is a bottleneck corner, hashtag turn 12, as it would be on the Formula One circuit. But I think that Fahim can't be fully held accountable on that instant, Rachel, mainly because it's so easy just to, you know, cut in and take your racing line if you think someone's slow. 3 wide just behind him, though, on the run into the final corner.
Yeah, they certainly were there, and that's definitely going to make things a little scary than usual. Bill Fraser looking to the outside here on Mark Mercer for the lead now. Bill Fraser could smell a potential victory. Now it's just him and Mark Mercer. Takes a wider line through turn 1, trying to get some speed up here to take this thing to Mark Mercer. Did he get alongside on the outside? Can he hang it around the outside and hold on for the next cutback? He won't have a chance to. Mercer choosing his lines very carefully here, doing exactly what he has to do to control this thing. Of course, we keep talking about this story all season. Mark Mercer versus Bill Fraser, Jake. It's the old guard versus the upstart, and wow, Bill Fraser's been running in the series almost as long, I suppose, now, but isn't it? Hasn't really won that many races until this season. Now he's leading the points, and we have David and Goliath on track.
All we do,
a bit of a look.
Big wiggle there. In fact, I don't think it was a deliberate look there, Rachel. I thought that was more the fact that he was just trying to drag that trail brake a little bit, and then it came back to bite him, so he loses the time. But crucially, he's in that battle now with Simon Edwards, Anthony Catt, and the World of Kanduchi man, Robert Plumley, there as well. So these 5 all in this train, and I will say something, Bill Fraser has won 3 of the last 5 races. Mark Mercer, since the start of January, has had 1 win.
Absolutely, and that changes a lot of things, of course. It puts you in a position where all of a sudden he's having to fight on the defensive for things. Mark Mercer, though, well, competent driver, very tactical racer. The races he hasn't won really have all been races where the likes of Ward and Antonides have been towards the front and caused issues or had the win from him, in fact. Same with Stuart Hancock, of course, as well. He's currently back in the 7th spot there. As across the start finish line they'll go here on lap number 5. This one is flying away tonight for us, but it's an interesting season, of course. Now towards the end of this season things have changed a little bit. In fact, I'm a little surprised to see Stuart Hancock so far back this season. Last season he was a lot further forward, competing for the championship, of course, and now just kind of hanging around the bottom of the top 5.
Yeah, he's got to be careful about that. This series comes and passes him by and he falls back to the mid-pack. You know, you do have to work to get back up there and really get back on the offensive, just like Bill Fraser's doing right now. He was all over the rear of Mark Mercer through the SS section. No opportunity to make that move just yet, but a good run coming out of it means that he can angle that vehicle, that Skip Barber, down to the inside, but he's just not able to be aggressive there. And in fact, contact check up Simon Edwards, and he's got to be so careful. I think there may be suspension damage front left.
That could be a reality which would change the dynamic of this race quite a bit. We'll keep our eyes on how that one's going. Antonides, of course, back in 11th place. He was your leader until an ill-fated bonk there with Peter Cowan, who are both still running. Well, Thurston, though, was struggling a little bit. In fact, he is still struggling. El Capitan, turns out we found the track he doesn't like. Circuit Americas qualified in 17th. He was 19th, now in 18th, followed by one of his teammates there. That is Darrell Taylor, who will probably be giving that spot to in short order because Taylor is coming forwards here. Darrell Taylor up 2 spots at the moment as he gets a good run on his teammate. The cars ahead of them, including Hobbs, Bidwell, Cowan, and I believe Daniels as well up there, Jake. But back at the front, Adcock is just gotten past Clark Williams. That moves him up a spot, 2 spots in fact, into 5th place.
Yeah, Simon Edwards dives down onto the lane. Damage definitely there. We'll have to take the one and only fast repair in this series. So Simon Edwards, that's going to put his challenges for the day completely and utterly dashed as the battles look to rage on. And, you know, it has been a very good drive from Clark Williams. He's really made up some good positions. Jonathan Sheen, though, will be what he'll be worrying about behind, because Sheen is having the drive, I think, that we haven't seen for a long while, Rachel. Up 5 positions, looking now for +6 through the S's section, and I think Sheen has known the way to make overtakes here. He's now just got to sit and play the patient game as Clark Williams looks very squirrely through the S's.
He does indeed, and one thing I'm keeping my eyes on here, of course, is Bill Fraser and Mark Mercer. As Fraser is nibbling at the back of Mark Mercer's car constantly. Hasn't given up since lap 1. and he's still trying to find a way through, but Mercer just controlling this thing with a symphonic maturity, is the way I'll put it, Jake, because he's just putting that car in difficult places. He's not losing a lot of time doing so. He's not driving defensively and sitting on the apex. He's just taking lines that do not lend themselves to passing, and it's working for him right now. Of course, the track doesn't exactly lend itself to passing in this configuration, but it still happens quite a lot as you look through the field. But Mark Mercer is just keeping that car awkward.
He is, and well, I'll just go backwards on a point because Clark Williams lost the position to Jonathan Sheen, so Sheen now up to 6th. But you are right here, Bill Fraser has been looking for an opportunity, it hasn't been working, and it's all been down to the fact that, yes, these moves have been available, but it's been some very good defensive driving. Not easy enough, though, from Mark Mercer. He didn't move enough to the left-hand side, 2 wide it will go, potentially 3 wide as Anthony Catt now wants to try and thread the needle. He doesn't get the chance as Plumley will take to the outside line to try and make something happen. But look at that, again, holding that outside line, you're able to do that. Mercer holds it off, but look at Plumley go down to the inside. Well, sometimes you've got to say, sugar plum fairy time. It seems that is a dance right now for Robert Plumley.
It's always a dance when Plumley's involved somehow, but normally it's more of a, well, a drunken Irish jig, if anything. But at the moment it's sort of a little more coordinated than that for him. But looking through this one as Adcock is climbing up towards Plumley in that group, although it's actually Anthony Catt that's the one that's not quite as doing as well at the moment, like you mentioned. Could Plumley get up here and mess up the fight between Fraser and Mercer? That's what I'm thinking. He's looking a little quicker at the moment, Jake. Do you think he can get involved in this?
I think he can, and I don't think he cares about the championship battle. Of course, we know that Robert Plumley is a very avid Twitch streamer as well, so he'll be looking to please his fans that will be watching his perspective of the race. I think Robert Plumley is very clever as a driver. He's not a young spring chicken. He is in his 40s, and Robert Plumley knows what it takes to be, cautious, careful. And I've seen him up in the likes of Pro Mazdas and Formula Renaults. He's been around for a very long time. He sees the battle going on as Fraser goes down to the inside of the final corner. Can't quite get aggressive on the brakes. And look at how Robert Plumley now is going to take advantage of both of these drivers on the run up to 1.
He certainly is. Of course, Fraser not going to have much power there as, Mercer pulls it to the inside. Kind of a block, but Plumley's now on the outside. 3 wide here, up to turn 1 on lap number 8. Who has the advantage? I think it might well be Mercer just by having a slightly wider line here, but he pushes very wide. Fraser takes advantage, will take the lead here on lap number 8. Bill Fraser finally gets the lucky mistake from Mark Mercer and gets through. Mercer just carried a bit too much speed through on that middle line and washed wide, I should say, Jake, and it really hurt him there. Now Plumley will be nibbling away at Mercer as young Fraser has the advantage.
Yeah, Bill Fraser certainly does have that advantage and already pulling out half a second, if not a little bit more. Plumley gets close again to Mercer, but needs to now start thinking about going on the aggressive factor if he wants to stay with Bill Fraser at this stage. Doesn't happen at the front of this field, and when they cross the line, Rachel, just 5 laps remain in this event, and that will be a very telling factor going on forward to see who is going to take some vital points going forward. We've still got the likes of this one, though. Nicholas Vaughan-Roberts against James McCritchie. McCritchie currently in 10th position, and right now would get a full 1 Sperry point.
Full Sperry point. That is very generous there for you to give him one of those. Those are very hard to come by. Normally, they're reserved for usually Finnish drivers in the WCS, but we'll keep going for this one as keep our eye, of course, as always, on El Capitan, one of our marker points in these races, because we do always get to chat to him. He's moved up a spot now from where he qualified. Him and teammate Darrell Taylor seemingly working together now rather than against each other. They've gotten past Matthew Forrest there, moving the pair to 16th and 17th respectively, and they're closing in actually on Hobbs, Daniels and Cowan, so that could be something to watch as we get towards the end of this, as the leaders head up towards the first corner. And now look at that, Bill Fraser, now he's gotten past Mark Mercer, Jake. He's pulling away by a country mile.
Yes, he was a full second quicker on that last lap of 43.5 against a 44.6, and that's very telling because it seems that Bill Fraser has the bit between his teeth, now wants to set that gap up. It was almost as if he said, Rachel, you know what, come on, you've had your fun, now it's time to get the big boys playing.
It really is time to get the big boys playing here. Lap 9 in the books. We'll have 4 to go at the end of this, and well, Bill Fraser just eking out that gap even now as we watch him. The gap is widening. Seemingly Mark Mercer's tactical race to stay in front to make himself difficult to pass wasn't down to speed overall.
No, it's not, and I've just seen Clark Williams go off for a second time at the left-hander rejoining the circuit. Side by side he will go with Nicholas Vaughan Roberts lose the position. You know, he's been... Yeah, he's too aggressive right now here is Clark Williams. He just needs to calm it down and just, you know, drive for safety right now. You're not going to win races by going off and having a nice little bit of rallycross action.
Absolutely. Rallycross isn't the right one to do here, of course. This is asphalt racing. We want to stay on the asphalt this time. But, yeah, carrying too much speed in these things will end up with the back end sliding out. The cars are actually a lot more stable, this build, the present build they're on, actually, for the last year or so than they have been in the past. They're very hard to get loose, and you can see just how hard these guys are pushing.
Oh yeah, they are very difficult to get loose, and I can definitely attest to that being a pad driver on iRacing, and knowing that I'm actually able to finish races now is going to be very, very useful. But, you know, you're looking at drivers now, when they are getting loose, they are getting very, very loose, and someone like Clark Williams now has to be careful, because not only does he have to deal with trying to get back past Vaughan Roberts in front, he now has the two drivers behind of Woolett and McCritchie wanting to make things happen. Clark Williams to the outside trying to make the move into one. Can he get the cutback? Answer's going to be a no. Not
right now would definitely be the answer, of course. And, wow, lap number 10. The gap for Bill Fraser at the line was 1.4 seconds now. And, yeah, he's clearing off into sunset. Second is Mark Mercer. Third, Robert Plumley. Plumley hasn't looked close enough to attack Mercer, though. It's not been a Bill Fraser position. I'm not sure where Fraser's found this speed this season, Jake, because he is flying. And the old warhorse of Mercer just not quite able to keep up here as Antonides gets past Stuart Adcock there. So move him back up a spot, recovering from his incident there with Cowan earlier on.
Yes, and, you know, I think you see it here with Bill Fraser. Sometimes, you know, it's the smallest things that make a difference. You know, is it a small change on the setup? Is it what I had for breakfast this morning? You know, it's those sorts of things that you think about that change a mindset maybe for Bill Fraser, that he's stopped the mental block. And Mark Mercer needs to now find, how do I adapt to Bill Fraser? How do I get quicker? Because it's always adapting. McCritchie side by side almost with Woolett through the triple right-hander, which almost mirrors the triple left-hander at Turkey, Rachel.
Oh, that's an interesting observation. But then again, COTA is one of those tracks that's been modelled after parts from different circuits, so you might not be wrong.
No, I might not. And, you know, I am famed for being often thought to be wrong, but, you know.
That is one accolade that might fit, but I'm not going to say either way. But I certainly have good opinions, though, regardless of whether you're right or wrong. So, yeah, it's interesting in a moment to see how this thing is playing out, of course, that this track, like you say, there's a lot of elements borrowed from different places, and I often find this S's section, there's hints of Maggots and Beckett's, there's hints of Spa in this as well. It's a very reminiscent section, but it loses something a little in translation. There's a little Paul Ricard in here as well. That might be just be the colouring.
Yeah, it certainly could be. It's just a shame that the blue and white doesn't actually slow down vehicles when they hit the big yellow anti-cut curbs as well, which haven't really been a factor in these vehicles, and that's something very nice that I've liked seeing, that these drivers have kept it pretty much on the straight and narrow. 2 laps to go when they cross the line, though, Rachel. Robert Plumley, I think, has been waiting for the last lap, waiting for the perfect move to make things happen. There's nothing wrong in this series with biding your time and waiting for the right moment to strike.
Which is something most of them had learned, actually, because quite a few of these guys haven't still worked out what the right time is. They must have left the egg timers back at the garage, because they seem to keep guessing a lot, is one of the problems we see a lot here. As Thurston and Taylor still not moved up any further in this one. They're not gaining really on Hobbs, Daniels and Cowan. Those positions could be fairly static. Vaughan Roberts up leading a pack here in the 8th place. Got a trail behind him with Clark Williams, McRitchie, and also Woolett up there. So
Woolett was up there.
Yeah.
Had a moment, Rachel. I think is the right word. The positive sim racing.
Moment is a good one. Yeah, moment's a great word to use for that situation. As Antonides still holds his position up here ahead of Stuart Adcock, and well, the racing's calmed down. Actually, is one thing we could really observe from this, as the frantic passing early on and closeness is really spread out. One thing I always like to have a look at in these races, of course, with a fairly static field, of course, Jake, is our time gaps in qualifying. And normally we take a look at those times, we say what's 1 second is our bracket, and that kind of rates our racetrack. Here, 1 second bracket from 43.624 to a 4.6 is a fairly small one. Only the top 15. There have been tracks where we've had the top 20 or 25 within a second, somewhere like Lime Rock Park. So the more technical the track, the wider our field spread is, and it really changes the dynamic of the racing.
That's not necessarily a bad thing, though, Rachel. I think that if racing was one single way all of the time, you know, even when you talk about NASCAR and the fact that you have plate restricted racing, which is so vastly different to, say, when you get onto a 1.5 mile oval, I think that you see so many differences when it comes into racing that, you know, if you had the same race all the time, it wouldn't be exciting, as Clark Williams has to fall back into line. McCritchie battling for 9th position on the outside, can't set up the run on that outside and misses the apex too. That battle for P8 really hotting up as Nicholas Vaughan Roberts has to keep the rest of the world behind, but white flag next time by for Bill Fraser, who's just built the gap and kept it there.
He really has, and the gap at the moment is huge at the moment. Although, that can't be right now. I'm looking at the qualifying positions. That would be why Fehima tonight is showing in second. As right now, Bill Fraser's gap to second place Mark Mercer hasn't grown too much since recently, but it's now 1.6 seconds. Whereas it was previously about 1.3 a couple of laps ago. So the gap hasn't really broadened, but it's definitely stayed a gap. So Mark Mercer, I just don't think has much more puff left in his tank. And this isn't a particularly drafty track, actually, other than that run up the front stretch. So it really stops these cars really sucking up to each other. Front groups are fairly static. Mercer and Plumley and Cat all somewhat separated. None of them have looked particularly good enough to get up to the other car and make a pass here. So I think we're looking at our finishing order for the top 5. Antonida still maintaining a reasonable gap here over Stuart Adcock, one of the 2 pairs of cars that might actually have a chance to make some changes here. But at the moment, into the technical section here of the infield, part of what we'd call the lap normally, after the S's section, Bill Fraser's gap just absolutely carefree at the moment as he'll come through into this double apex here, just below your observation deck there at COTA, and some of the fan areas on the infield. Kind of tricky corner with it not being quite a regular double apex, Jake. Is that kind of offset angle?
Yeah, it is, and we just saw Mark Mercer almost get T-boned by Robert Plumley. He has to be so careful about that here on the final lap with just a couple of corners left to go. Plumley's now falling back to Cat, and Cat's only got one last chance to make it happen. Turn number last.
He does, and I just don't think he's going to have a chance right now because the gap has not been close enough to make something happen. Into the final corner they'll all come, and Plumley goes deep, but it will be in vain, as across the line will come Bill Fraser, Mark Mercer, Robert Plumley, Anthony Cat. So a podium for Plumley in the final moments.
Absolutely fantastic, and we're almost going to have side-by-side to the line. Clark Williams couldn't make it happen. McCritchie gets the run, but the line's too close, and he can't get the opportune moment to happen as well. And, oh, is that slow coming through Paul Thurston?
Oh, yes, let his teammate through.
Oh, sorry, other way around. That was Darrell Taylor letting through Thurston.
Yes, because Paul is, of course, still looking for a top 10 points finish, so looks as though Darrell let his teammate through.
Well, there's no other way of saying that unless he's run out of fuel, which I certainly doubt would be the way forward there, Rachel.
They're a close team. I think that was a tactical move for points there for Paul. Darrell giving him a spot, because Darrell's not really had the best season. Paul has been having a decent one, so I think that was a points favour there from Darrell Taylor. But either way, we'll talk to him after the race about that one. We'll question him live on air as we'll go to our finishing results. Bill Fraser comes home with the win yet again this season, widening his lead at the top of the championship. Mark Mercer in second place with Robert Plumley, Anthony Cat, Fehima Tanides in 5th place. Then it's Adcock, Sheen, Vaughan Roberts, Williams, McRitchie in 10th place. Nick Sigley, Peter Cowan, Ben Daniels, Jack Hobbs, Paul Thurston in 15th place at the end there. Darrell Taylor, Matt Cox, Matthew Forrest, Jeff Click, Anthony Jones. Jake, your thoughts?
Oh, I thought it was a very good race. I thought it was, you know, some solid battling throughout the field, very technical. We did see the slowdown penalties disrupt a little bit here for the likes of Antonides, for the likes of, say, those like Clark Williams struggling, or even the likes of, say, you could look at Matthew Woolett, I think, as well, really did struggle from it as well. But I thought it was a very good race. I thought a lot of people had a lot of battling to work with, and I thought it was a very solid showing for UK&I Monday Night Skippies, and that's why I think it is very treasured here at RaceSpotTV.
It certainly is. And well, we are going to go for a quick commercial break. When we come back, you get the best part of Monday Night Skippys, the post-race interviews. It's practically our own radio show at this point, so you stay tuned. We'll be back after these messages.
Just like a movie, just like a storybook, we are the future, we're the ones they won't overlook. It's time to be the hero.
Welcome back to Monday Night Skippy's post-race show here on RaceSpotTV. To be honest, it's the best part of the night, so thank you for being here. First up, we have a chance to chat to Fahim Antoniadis, who came home today in 5th place. Fahim, you were leading. You got a slowdown in the cut-through section of the track, which is kind of one of those places where it happens here at COTA. And then you decided to T-bone Mr. Cowan. What happened?
Yeah, opportunity missed today. That turn 7 is a very tricky turn. It's either you either make it clean or you go straight into a slowdown. There's no one times off track on it, so it's one or the other. And then I'm sorry that we came together with Peter. The problem with this part of the track is that the entry to that hairpin is so wide that somebody could be right next to you but out of your peripheral vision because they're so far apart. And so I think if you look at the replay again, it was 50-50 really, because we
Absolutely.
I had the inside line and he swung in. I couldn't see him, he couldn't see me. It's just one of those racing incidents that happen on a track like that. Then after that, I had wing damage and I was very slow on the straights, so I couldn't really do much other than get to where I got to. If I had a little bit more time, maybe another 20 laps, then maybe we could have done something about it, but it wasn't enough time with that kind of damage to make good what went wrong.
Well, these things happen, but you come back to a 5th place finish, so not a bad day after all.
Yeah, not bad at all.
Thanks for joining us. Fahim Antoniadis came home today in 5th place. Next up, we have a chance to chat to Matthew Forrest, who's come up here today. Matthew came home today in 18th from 23rd on the grid, so great big moves for you today, Matthew.
Yeah, it was. This is my highest finish. I was just telling Paul.
Well, a cracking result either way. Inside the top 20, a good result for you, and, well, a lot of battling back there.
Yeah, it was fun. Matt Cox just hit me on the end, going the 3 corners or 4 corners from the end. I made a little mistake, and he managed to come up on the inside. But I was quite happy where I was at that point, so yeah, it was good. It was good fun.
Certainly was good fun. Well, thank you for joining us, of course, there. Coming home in 18th place after starting in 23rd. Best finish for Matthew Forrest. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Paul Thurston joining us once again, and we kind of hinted before the race, Paul, that with you starting so far down the grid, you might not be a big fan of COTA.
I only really have trouble with one section from
What, the lap?
Well, yeah, corner 1 through to that last corner just before the start-finish line.
Yeah, the one.
Yeah.
The one before the first corner. Got it. Yeah.
Apart from that, I mean, I'm great. Straights, I'm the boss. I just couldn't get it. I mean, I've been practicing it on and off all week, but it's a really, really difficult track to just lap at, just lap consistently. It's during practice, a few of us were chatting, and when I said what it feels like is that every lap, someone's actually taking the whole track and just tilting it in a different direction, because no corner ever goes the same way twice.
What I will say, though, is COTA was designed using a lot of corners from other tracks, a lot of segments from other racetracks around the world, and it's like they picked the favourite bits they liked, and tried to replicate them. It's like the Lego version of a good racetrack. It looks about the same, but it just isn't the same.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the like the Beckett's Maggots complex. I actually prefer the COTA version of that to the Silverstone version. There's a little bit of up and down on there. I mean, the first corner, really, if you look at it, it's you're taking Paddock Hill Bend in reverse, which is the original way it was run, of course, on the bikes back in the 30s. But not a lot of people know that.
No.
It was a mud track then. Our racing should model that.
There you go. We can have some rallycross on there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Brands Rallycross, they should do that, but that's another story entirely. But I'm absolutely delighted with the 15th place out of that, because
that's something I want to actually talk to you about. That is something I want to talk to you about. Because,
Dowell. Dowell let me by.
Yes, we saw that. We saw that. Yes.
Yeah. We did it.
A tactical 3-point steal.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, basically, Dowell's not fighting for anything in the championship, so I didn't ask. He basically offered, and I said, "Well, I'm not. Look, you've won this one. It's up to you. You go if you want." But then he said he would pull over at the end, and he did. But no, he had me on pace completely today. He just seemed to get the track better than me. I was pleased at the end that we actually managed to get a little bit of a gap on the two Matthews behind us. Because Matt Forrest was all over Darrell when I was in front, which is one reason I let Darrell by. Because I said to Darrell, look, if you want to go past, just go. And so he came past down the straight a few laps earlier, and then we started to pull a little bit of a gap because I could draft off Darrell. And we just had that 1.2 seconds clear at the end, which is important, and that extra point or extra couple of points I'll get from finish 15th rather than 16th above Matt. That could be absolutely critical, because everything's really tight for top 10 place in the championship this season. It's really close. Bill winning again, that's a good win for him, because that really solidifies him at the top. But you've got to remember that Mark Mercer's got some zeros to actually drop, whereas Bill hasn't.
Oh.
Bill has finished top 10 every single race.
Yes, that could make things very interesting. Nice little point to bring up there, Paul. But we'll have to wrap things up for tonight, so thank you very much for joining us. And we, of course, don't forget, folks, we'll be back, as always, same time next week here on Monday Night Skippys. We love having you guys, we love you watching, and we love you taking part. In fact, this is probably one of the few shows where about the same people watch the broadcast as the post-race, rather than all starting off. So thank you for sticking around. As always, I've been Rachel, and today I've been joined by Jake Sperry, and as always, Hugo Louise on the cameras. We'll see you next time. Bye.